fresh off a dominant win over Texas, Ohio State looks to maintain their edge against Grambling State.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to your Feel Good Friday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, which is your daily Ohio State podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, veteran sports talk host, delivering passionate coverage about your Buckeyes, and today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now. During today's show, we had to get one more of my guys here on a Friday pod, talk about Ohio State's upcoming game. Last week, it was my guy, Mo Murphy. Today, it's the host of the Jeff Need Sports podcast. Of course, it's my guy, Jeff Hunt. He is back here with us. And after that 14-7 win over Texas, we are riding high. Ohio State is number one in the country. They got Grambling State tomorrow. We just talked about the marching band before we got on and hit record, and about how we're looking forward to the marching band performance on Saturday. We're also looking forward to Ohio State getting back on the field and showing everybody once again why they're the top dog in the country. And Jeff, in this game, to me, while it is nowhere, the two teams don't have the same type of talent, don't have the same type of star power, Ohio State can still do certain things to show that they are making the necessary steps to get better and grow after the win last week. And to me, one of the first things they must do is maintain their competitive edge. Ryan Day said in the offseason, this team is edgy, even going back to taking down some of the banners that they put up from winning the national championship. And that edginess, that competitive fire, showed up in a big way last week against Texas, and that must show up once again Saturday against Grambling State.
Yeah, you touched on the number one thing right there is to keep the focus, is to keep, like the edge, so to speak. And that doesn't mean, you're going out there and try and embarrass Grambling. The more I think about it, this isn't about that. And I'm not trying to disrespect Grambling, but we all know like how this game probably will and should go, but it's about like respecting the game, like execute. If you're supposed to run a 7-yard route, run a 7-yard route. If it's a timing route, you run the timing route. We all know that we could go out there and probably throw 7 times deep to Jeremiah Smith. He'd have 300 yards, 4 touchdowns, and blah blah blah. But that doesn't make your team better. That doesn't make them competitively better. You have to find a way in this game to compete against yourself. Can you focus? Can the secondary cover the Grambling receivers with the intensity that they did the Texas receivers? Will they scheme? Will they pressure? All of these things, with the intensity that they would, that they would against any other team. And you're exactly right. Mine's the focus. I've watched so many Ohio State teams over the years, even under Urban Meyer, even under Jim Tressel, that when, you came off a big win or what you consider a better opponent, and then you play one of these games, you play lazy, you play unfocused, some kid, I've been in a few, I remember the Tulsa game a couple years ago, one of the worst games I ever saw Ohio State play, that they just played unfocused and lazy, and Tulsa didn't, and it was miserable. I've seen Western Michigan, the same thing happen. And this isn't about, I need Ohio State to win by 100. I just need them. If Ohio State executes their game plan like they do in practice, like they do in scrimmages, then it's going to be completely fine. But that's what I want to see. I don't want to see rounded off routes. I don't want to see, any loafing or anything like that. This is definitely a Julian Sayin game. This is a Julian Sayin accuracy game. Like, you have to take this game and be like, purposely throw a lot of balls down the seam, purposely throw to the sidelines, throw in tight windows, all of this stuff on purpose, to try and get this kid acclimated for what is going to be a long, hard season.
A long, hard season is correct. And Ryan Day did some stuff last week to kind of preserve not just Sayin's body, but the entire offense's body by being more slow and methodical when the movements and the play calling, and not really trying to push the ball down the field a lot. I don't know how often they'll push the ball downfield tomorrow, because if Ryan Day's taking this really conservative approach early in the year, especially against an opponent you should blow out. Let's put it that way. You should blow them out. So maybe you don't want to put all your cards on the table, which I get that. Maybe Ryan Day does push for better execution, better blocking in the run game, because it was a clear difference between Donaldson running the ball and Peoples running the ball. Now, Donaldson rests for 2,000 yards at West Virginia. He is the more seasoned back. Peoples is getting his first time with extended playing time. So it's a different dynamic that maybe you should expect the more seasoned back to be better running the ball. But also, maybe there were times the offensive line just didn't open the holes up wide enough, and it didn't allow Peoples or even Donaldson to get through the line to get 4 or 5 or 6 yards of pop. So I do think for Ohio State, execution is big. But I even say that to go for special teams. You don't want to see a field goal, a PAT, or a punt blocked. First off, you don't want to punt at all. Like, if you have to punt, it may happen with the backups on the field. But, like, you don't want to punt. But there's certain level of execution that even with special teams gets glossed over in these games because sometimes players just go through the motions. You can't do that. Execute at a high level no matter what. You're Ohio State. They're coming to your house to play. You're not going there. Make sure they get the full Ohio State treatment.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, you touched on something with the run game. I want, definitely got to work on the run game, and mainly because it's just really hard to run against Texas. So like, you just didn't get a lot of practice. Like, shout out to, I thought the run game was pretty good in Texas. If I'm grading them against Texas defense, this isn't Texas defense. You should be able to get, the holes ought to open. You ought to have definitely should be some breakaway runs, but also like, I want to see a lot of the screen game. You know what I mean? Just as far as just executing it, I want to see the running backs get their hands on the balls, and then I want to see the tight ends too. We talked about it before the show.
Yeah.
I think there's a world to where this offense, like 2 tight ends or sometimes even 3, could be awesome. Get them guys involved because they're going to be doing a ton of the work to protect Julian the rest of the year. They're going to be a ton of the work in the run game, which they did. Let them have some fun, get it out there, get the ball in their hands, let them, spread their wings a little bit. Basically just give them some credit, for what they do, because they're going to have some games this year. It's going to get rainy. It's going to get cold. They're going to be getting the snot beat out of them. Let them enjoy some good weather and all that. I mean, this isn't about getting Jeremiah Smith a Heisman game. This isn't what this game's about, and it really shouldn't be. This is about working on your offense. If anything, call offenses into whatever they do best at defense. We don't need to scheme and call audibles and trick, Grambling. If anything, the coaches need to call plays to be like, okay, this is the best player on their defense. We're going to go one-on-one. You need to win this matchup kind of thing, because later in the year, when we play really good teams, you're going to have to win these matchups. Like, we know we could scheme people open all day. That's not what this ought to be about, because I don't think you learn anything from that.
Jeff, before we close up on this conversation, you're an Ohio guy, and I know you talk to people on a regular basis about Ohio State football. Are you looking forward to seeing Tavian St. Clair potentially get on the field, an Ohio kid playing for the first time this year?
Yeah. We're so excited about him. Nothing against Kleinholtz or anything like that, but he is definitely exciting. I mean, I've even got a friend of ours, their son actually played with him, I think, for one or 2 seasons. Like, that's, again, I try to tell everybody how small the state Ohio is. Like, that's how close we are. Like, one of our friend's sons played with Tavian St. Clair. Yeah, absolutely. And we want to see all these guys get to run because, we do want to thank them for committing to Ohio State, even though they know it's an uphill battle, even though they know they got all these superstars in front of them. We want to give them credit for, like, hey, just stick with us, stick with the plan, come here. And we know it would be easier for you to go somewhere else and start right away. But we appreciate the sacrifice, get you on the field, get the arm moving. And again, we said it last year, it didn't come true, which is awesome. You're probably going to need a backup quarterback. I keep saying that. Like, if you're going to plan a 12-game season and a playoff run, these teams going to need a backup quarterback. You're going to need somebody. So, like, yeah, it would be awesome to see him play, a good quarter of football. And yes, he is definitely beloved by Ohio fans. He's one of ours. He talks the part, he looks the part, just all these things, So yeah, absolutely. That would be super cool to see him and a lot of the other guys get in there and get some meaningful run, which is going to be needed again, I think, later in the season.
Normally on a Friday show, we discuss our keys to victory, but we're changing things up today to discuss some certain statistical goals that I have for Ohio State during the game tomorrow. We'll discuss those next. This episode is brought to you by DoorDash. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For Ohio State, CJ Hicks delivered in a big way. His pressure on Arch Manning on Texas's final offensive play of the game forced Arch Manning to make a tough pass. It was a completion, but Caleb Downs was right there to tackle the tight end and to secure Ohio State's win. When the pressure was on, CJ Hicks came through. No hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching week after week, this performance wasn't a fluke. CJ Hicks is on a streak. And just like CJ Hicks delivered for Ohio State, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash streaks, you save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. This episode is also brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who choose to do more than simply move. They follow what moves them every time they drive. And that's what makes Mazda stand out. They go beyond safety, style, and performance to deliver a driving experience that feels alive in every detail. As an athlete focuses on every detail, Mazda does the same. From metallic accents to hand-stitched Napa leather. Whether it's a quick drive to practice or a weekend road trip, Mazda makes even everyday drives feel special. It's the small details that make the big plays. And just like there's more to every player, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Jeff, I love throwing curveballs at people about stuff coming up on the show. This one wasn't a true curveball. I kind of texted you about it and said, hey, these are my general thoughts for a Friday show. I'm only going away from the keys because Ohio State should blow them out tomorrow. You'll hear in our score predictions how we think the game is going to go. That's coming up in the very next segment. But, Jeff, I have some stat goals. Some for offense, some for defense. I'm actually going to add some for defense right now because I didn't put it on my paper earlier. But for offense, just really two. I'm not going to go into anything crazy. For the offensive side of the ball, Julian Sayin should have 250 passing yards easily because I don't know how long he's going to play. But it is time on the field. He should get that number, but also the team, everybody that runs the ball should have 250 rushing yards. I don't have a total offensive output saying 600 or 700 yards, or even 5. I'm not going that far. 500 is the minimum offensive output Ohio State should have, but saying 250 passing yards for the entire team, a team that rushed for 66 yards last week should have 250 rushing yards tomorrow. How does that sound to you?
That sounds like a challenge. I'll be honest with you. I think the team can do. I think that's a fair. I think Sayin could get 250 yards if they want him to. But I
Correct.
think it's more important if you combine that with the rushing yards. If you tell me Sayin had 300 passing yards, but we only had 100 rushing yards, I don't think we consider that successful. So I like how you worded that. I think I would combine the two. Like that you said. I think you need the 500. And I think the 250 rushing is very important. And that sounds like a lot, but it really shouldn't be because these games get long. We're going to presume that Ohio State, is scoring. So that means there's a lot of possessions in a game like this. So, I mean, if you get 8 possessions, I mean, you're only talking about getting, 40, 50 yards of possession, and you're going to have some massive numbers in the rushing game. I look more at averages. What I don't want to see is 3 70-yard runs, then we got 210, but then a bunch of 2 and 3 yard runs, and Sayin's always in. What I don't want to see is 3rd and long at all. Those are the things that eat me up, when I watch games like this. Is like, why are we at 3rd and 8? Why are we committing holding penalties to put us at, 1st and 15 and stuff like that? These are the things that drive me nuts. So I think that's a fair challenge. I think, Sayin, you're right. It might be based on playing time. I mean, maybe it's crazy and he just doesn't have time to get it. But like, if the running game's going really good, it is important to have running backs involved because those guys just need the hits. They need the momentum. They need, all these things. It's hard for them to come in and out of games and be cold. Like they like to run. Running backs like to run the ball. So if you tell me like, hey, we're going to run for 300, Sayin's going to throw for 200, that's fine. I'm personally gonna look more at percentages, like completion percentage, run, yards per carry, stuff like that.
What completion percentage would you give him to say he hit this number that he should hit?
Oh, it'd have to be somewhere around 75 to 80. If there's
Okay.
drops, that's fine. But if
Yeah.
I think 20 out of 25, we'll say 10, 12. Yeah, 20 out of 25 for 250, couple touchdowns, zero interceptions unless it's taken a shot. I do not care if you take some crazy shot and it's a great interception, fine, or a tip ball or something. But yeah, I think that's fair.
So similar to the throw that was a touchdown last week to where he threw the ball to Cardinal Tate. Is
Yeah,
just
it's
taking
fine.
a shot. That what you mean?
Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah,
Okay.
I want to see you throw into coverage because you're going to throw into coverage all year. And by the way, I'm on the side that I don't think that was as underthrown as people think it was. I
Right.
think if Tate catches it clean, not that it was an easy catch, I'm saying if he catches that clean, it looks like an entirely different play than people, because if we're going to say that was underthrown, then the touchdown to Smith last year against Tennessee to open up the playoff game was underthrown because that was closer covered than what Sayin thrown. So I think that people are, I just want to throw that out there. I think they're being a little hard on the underthrown ball. I think that was a really well thrown ball against a good defense. But yeah, I just want I need to see I'm looking at Sayin's completion percentage in the windows. Is he hitting the open guy? Where's he hitting them in the hands? Are they jumping for it? Are they diving for it? Things like that. Execution again. Just it goes back to execution.
Stat goals for the defense tomorrow, and these may sound a little crazy, but based off what we saw last week, and the physicality and how fast they played, we're going to keep the standard high. Jeff and I are not ever on this show to lower the standard to make people happy. No, the standard is going to stay what the standard is, and we're going to make sure the players are, hopefully, from our standpoint, as we cover them, rising up to the standard. So, Jeff, on defense, a few more stats here, but they're going to make some. They're going to make sense. Hold Grambling State to less than 50% on third down. The starters, which don't allow a single touchdown while they're on the field. The defense gets at least 2 turnovers. The defense gets at least 4 sacks. How does that sound to you?
That's pretty good. I think 50% on third down, like that's a good goal for any game. I'd probably be a little disappointed if you're going to tell me 50% on third down, but also they don't get the fourth downs, then I can live with it. But you know what I don't want to see 50% on third down and they get a couple fourth downs and I'll be pulling my hair out. Like I really will. I think the 4 sacks is fair. It's probably going to be more just because I don't know how Grambling's going to play this game, if they're going to play it just to get out of there or if they're just going to keep, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I've got a chance to watch them or know what kind of offense they run or anything. I just really haven't. So yeah, I think 4 sacks I think a minimum of 4 is good, but I also want to see it by a few different players. And I want to see it by, I don't just necessarily need to see like, a guy's just better than the guy in front of him. I really want to see maybe a couple blitzes. I know they're not going to go crazy on defense, this week. I get it. There's no reason to do that. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I think I would like the turnovers. Yes, I think definitely. But here's what you can have with this defense, and they had this problem last year because they were so good. If you can't get the ball out of your hand or nobody's open, sometimes you don't get turnovers. Their turnovers are 3 and outs a
Yes,
lot of
that is
times.
true.
So like that's where I would challenge them at, like, if I was a betting guy, the 2 turnovers, that over under would be great because the ball just might not be able to be in the air. I don't know if you remember the Indiana game, but after the first drive, like there's nowhere for the ball to go. The quarterback couldn't stay. So like, therefore you limit the turnovers because they just don't have time to run a play. So it could be a situation to where like that. So that I'm going to circle the 2 turnovers and get back to you on that one.
And I say turnovers because they almost had 2 last week.
Yeah.
It wasn't truly a turnover because he didn't catch the ball, but they were really close.
Yeah.
If Sonny Styles just moved his arm a little bit under the ball, there's 2 picks right there. And so they almost had 2 turnovers against a really good team. Now, I'm not going to say like 2 turnovers a game is going to be the expectation because then you're talking about like elite status, historic status type of defense that you walk onto the field and the opposing offense knows they're automatically turning the ball over twice. That's weird, man. I'm not going that far. But this team with the guys they have, I see some of those young guys are going to be very, very hungry. This is not numbers. These aren't numbers just for the starters. These are for anybody that touches the field. So it could be the last corner that gets on the field that gets the last turnover. That boy is hype. He's playing his first Ohio State game ever in front of 100,000 fans. It's on the Big Ten Network, and he gets an interception, knowing his family and his friends are going to remember this for the rest of their lives. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. So this is not just, hey, Matthews, you got to get 2 interceptions or the corner. No, this is anybody out there. It's a game, Jeff, I want to see the young guys play well. We don't normally get the young guys to get on the field and extended playing time against a team like this. Normally you get an Ohio or a Bowling Green, more of a MAC school that comes in. That's a pretty good caliber team to kind of ramp up for, you have to actually prepare for. You got to prepare for Grambling State, but it's not the same. So some of these younger guys, mentioned St. Clair earlier, and there'll be some younger guys that'll get on the field. I'm looking forward to them to get their feet wet, get their first sign and first feeling of being inside the shoe and playing real Buckeye football in the regular season. I'm getting excited thinking about it because I know how it feels to play football on a field for the very first time. I never had an opportunity to play in a stadium like that. And if I was an 18 or 19-year-old young man being able to play in that stadium for the first time, knowing my mama and my dad are watching that game, I'd be hyped, bro.
I just want to know, honestly, is Doug Williams going to be there? I just want Doug Williams to be there. The legend, Doug Williams. I want him to be there. I want him to be watching. I want the players to get to meet him and stuff like that. I want him to talk about Eddie Robinson. You know what I mean? I want, because this is a real, big chunk of football history is Grambling. So yeah. And you're right. I hadn't really thought about that. Because I do get frustrated with that. I don't like to see starters in late and all that, only because what you said, like if I go there, like, hey, I committed to come here, you know what I mean? I know I'm driving the new Ford Probe around or whatever, but like I want to get on there and play and show what I got. I want to get loose. I practiced. I let Smith and Tate run around me and all over me all summer in the spring. Let me get out there and have some fun. And so I do like what you're saying there. So there is a situation to where this could be a game to where the next level actually does have a better game than the quote unquote starters. I have no idea how Ryan Day is going to play this game. And I don't know how Grambling is going to play it. I don't know what they do, either. So like it's kind of cool, but I just, like I said before, before we do predictions, like totally respect Grambling. They mean a lot to sports. This is not going to be, this isn't about embarrassing a team that thinks there's something they're not. You know what I mean? They're coming there. They're going to play tough, like everybody else. So this is sometimes you just have these games. You know what I mean? This is just one of these games. Like sometimes you have them. Nobody cares when it's almost the end of the season and Georgia does it or Alabama does it. Like it's just one of those games, and it's fine. And I'm sure Grambling, is happy to make the money and come up here. And honestly, say what you want, they still get their shot. They get their shot to beat the number one team in the country. So, and if they do it, I'll be like, hey, awesome. I really will.
Jeff, it's the time of the show. We get to put our predictions out there, and people that are watching, listen to this, can compare their prediction to ours because we both have score predictions, and you're going to hear them after the break. Hey, Ohio State fans, are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limited time promo code FOOTBALL and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You could make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas you already needed. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes. And you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using my limited time promo code FOOTBALL for a limited time 25 cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code FOOTBALL. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. This episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your first bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Yo, that's so good, I gotta say it again. New customers can bet just $5. And if your first bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by using FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. So, Jeff, I kind of went back and forth with this one. It's just kind of weird in my head because I had a number in my head, and I was like, no, I don't want to go with that number. And so I dialed it back a little bit by 1 point because I feel like that number was better suited for this team for Ohio State. And then when it came to Grambling State, trying to figure out if they're going to score or how many points they're going to score, I was like, well, that's too high. So I'll go first to try to just give you more time to think about my own thoughts. I think the final score is going to be Ohio State 65, Grambling State 3. And the 65 is a safety. I do see Ohio State early in the game with the starters, especially if they are able to pin them back deep in their own territory, getting a safety, which is hard to predict. But I didn't want to go 66. I didn't want to go 67 or 70. I'm going 65-3. And the 3 for Grambling State is going to come late in the game with some of those first-time players getting on the field. Grambling State starts driving. They get stopped, kick about a 40, 42-yard field goal, and they get on the board probably with 5 minutes left in the game. So 65 Ohio State. Grambling State scores 3. Buckeyes win. They go to 2-0.
So yeah, this is one of the first times that we are way, way on different planes on this. So I've only got it, and this is insane, 41-10 Ohio State. And my thought process is, we talked about it before the show. I totally think Ohio State could probably do whatever they want. I really do think they're going to stay with this slow play and eat the clock, and they're going to really, really, really try to run the ball. Now, if the running game goes great and Peoples and Donaldson, just keep breaking away, then I'm going to be completely wrong. But that's usually tougher to do. And I could see on defense, I just don't think they're going to show a bunch. I think they were so impressive last week. There's no reason for this defense to do anything creative. There's no reason to blitz a lot. There's, none of these things. So I think Grambling's going to have a little bit of time of possession. I think it's going to be more punts than turnovers and sacks and things like that. I think the second half is going to be so, second level heavy that it's just going to take a while for those guys to go. And, maybe there's some fourth downs they don't get. And it's just ho-hum. We're not trying to embarrass the team that came up here. We're not trying to get anybody hurt. So I just think it's going to be this weird, it might be 41 to nothing at half, and it doesn't change. There's just something weird about this game. I'm probably completely wrong, and the athletes are just going to be athletes, and Sonny Styles is going to have 2 touchdowns. Like you're saying, but I think this game is going to be treated more like a scarlet and gray game than it is going to be, and plus, honestly, coming off that Texas win, if they were playing a tougher opponent, I think they would definitely be up for it. But this is, you talk about a kind of a mental, take a week off, you know what I mean? When it's ahead of you, I could see some of that happening too. And us being like, I can't believe they punted, or I can't believe some of that stuff, so we'll see.
I do think for the Buckeyes, their normal base defense, and honestly, Jeff, Ohio State's base last year was a 4-2-5, which is what I thought they were going to go out with this year. They had so many 3-man fronts. I don't know what the base is anymore.
The base is, Sue, if anybody remembers, the great Patriots teams, in which Patricia was a huge part of those defenses. So if we're going to, they were built from the back front. So the secondary is how Belichick and Patricia and that crew built their defenses. And that is exactly what we have this year. And to me, in modern day football, I think that's totally the way to go. I think here's what we talk about it a million times, Jay. You put a great secondary out there. You just bought your defensive line 0.5 seconds or maybe a second. It's over. it's over if you're going to buy your defense a second, especially as fast as some of these guys are. So, but, I don't see where there's going to be room for the ball to go if you're Grambling. It's going to be interesting. It's just to see how the clock runs. I hope it doesn't drag out and, be a, ho hum and embarrass anybody. But I do hope it's really, what are we worried about here? We're worried about the first half. I know we sound arrogant and all that, but that's the truth. If it's not a great first half, then we got a whole conversation to have. Your next week is filled with content if Ohio State's only up like 12 at the half, is what I'm saying. So that's a whole different ball of wax.
And you might get a text about coming on the show because I currently have flashbacks to the Iowa game a couple years ago where after the bye week, Ohio State came out flat. They beat them. They blew them out. I see your face. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And you and I came on the show and we're like,
Iowa beat them.
This doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel right at all. And it's like, what's going on? But no, Jeff, if that happens, you're getting a text. And I'm going to ask you to talk to your wife and make sure she's okay with us talking for an hour.
But it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. And I hope everybody that's in the stadium, and I hope they show someone on TV, gets to enjoy the Grambling band. And I hope we have a good time, and hope we're good hosts. I hope they enjoy their time here. I hope, and I hope it's respectful, and I hope they have a blast. And it's always an honor to have an HBCU, come play a game and all that. Like I told you before the show, I've been to one. It's just cool. And again, I want it to be a good time. I want everybody to have fun, but I also want it to be intense, from whistle to whistle.
That's Jeff Hunt. He is the host of the Jeff Dean Sports Podcast. You can follow him on Twitter at jhunt006. I am Jay Stevens, as always. You can follow me on any social media platform at jstevens07. You guys are in for a treat tomorrow, but not only by the Buckeyes, but by the band. I've talked about it all week, Jeff. The band is real, man. If y'all think that I'm big about the band, Jeff is a little bit different than me in one distinct way, and he's hyped for the band too. I can't say what that way is for obvious reasons, but we're up out of here, y'all. I want to get myself in trouble. About here on a Friday. We'll talk tomorrow after the game live on YouTube.